Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Time. Hopefully it's working. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm trying this new software. I'm getting a slight echo in my ear. Okay, so let me get acclimated to this. I might have to take these out. We're on day 14 of my lockdown, and today I don't have a lot of topics. I got a couple things. It's going to be mostly questions, and hopefully this is going to be functioning. If anybody can put a comment and let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me. And let me see if I can. Well, it says I'm live. Yeah, it's working. Oh, here we go. Fine, good morning. You are live. Okay, sorry about that. I got a message from somebody said that he wasn't seeing me, and it's hard for me to tell when I'm running this software. I can't really see what you are getting. USB connecting and disconnecting. Maybe you're talking about when I was running the intro. That's actually noise in that intro. And that, I'm not going to be running that long intro every week. It was just something that I was trying out. There were a couple clips involved there. So I was giving it a try. And that noise is actually in there. So if that's what you're hearing, I'm aware of that. It's not a defect. It's just the clip that I was running. This week, well, first of all, coffee time. This is normally my time to talk about what went on for the week, answer questions I get through email and messages, and answer questions live. I'm echoing. Okay, right now there's not much I can do about that. Hopefully it's not too terrible. I'll note it for next time. Is the echo bad? Let me ask that. And can you still hear me? And did the echo go away? Not too bad. All right, well, still echo. All right, well, that didn't help. Yeah, my lips are in sync. Yeah, I kind of figured out what that is. I'll talk about the software in a minute for those that are interested. Anyway, that's the purpose of the coffee time. I've got a bunch of new subscribers recently, which is nice because everything has been really going, down the tubes as far as numbers go. YouTube has actively been hiding videos and has demonetized pretty much everything. You can't mention the malady that's going around, or your video can go into limbo and never be seen again. It's really problematic. So new subscribers, thank you for joining up. Contributors, there's still some people that are helping out with the channel, and I thank you very much. That money's not going to waste, even though I can't get out and around. It's going into a fund that I've got some plans I've talked to you previously about. But in particular, I want to thank Sherry and Charles and all my Patreon viewers, and of course a couple people last week that contributed during this live. I appreciate it very much. Today I'm going to talk about, mostly I'm testing this software today, and so I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll give a quick stay home, I hate to do those quotes, stay home update, you know, what's going on here, and then answer any questions. One upside with this is I can read the chat. I can make it the size I want. It's nice and big. I don't have to squint. This is awesome. Whatever you put there, I can read. But still put 4 question marks, ask the question, get to it. Today will be probably mostly question and answer. So the software. I'm using an open source software, and it's a platform that a lot of these services that I've talked to you about in the past that are a couple $100 to buy, or 30, 50 and up a month, they use this open source platform as the basis, and then they create controls so that you don't have to spend your life learning this. Well, this week I decided, you know, I really can't afford these others, so I decided I got time. All I did this week really was, with a few exceptions, I watched a couple TV shows, but mostly I worked on this software and I ate. I swear I put on probably 10, 15 pounds this past week. Not good. I don't know because I didn't add it up, but I would guess that I put it well over 100 hours into learning this software. Big bowl of Bluebell ice cream. Yeah, you're funny. You're a funny guy. We joke back and forth. There's a really good YouTube program that I'm addicted to. He's addicted to. It's Good Mythical Morning. And last week when I did the intro and it said, let's talk about that, that was a reference to that show. And sorry about the slight echo. There's nothing I can do now, but I will try to figure it out for next time. So far, thank you, I appreciate the contribution. So far, this software seems to be working, but I don't know. We'll see soon enough. What else we got here? Okay. And you'll see what it can do here shortly. So, the purpose of this software is, instead of just having to sit and talk to you and explain some things that I would be better to be able to show you, I can now show you. Let me give you an example. It's one of my favorite clips. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. This was back in Ecuador with my friend Sandy. Her and her sister and their kids stayed in my house for a while. Where are we? Let's see if it's... Okay.
This is my third glass. I am drunk.
You are born drunk.
Cheers. Cheers. I love beer.
Okay, so hopefully that worked and you could hear it. A lot of this is tests, so please feel free to comment on what you're seeing, what you're not seeing. I got the thing with a slight echo. Anything else that's going on, give me something to work on this coming week. I'm stuck here for another 2 weeks. Our curfew or quarantine or whatever you want to call it is a couple weeks. I actually have not left the apartment. My friend has gone to the grocery store a couple times, but I have not left the apartment. The more I read about it, and I've stopped. I certainly don't watch any more news on this issue because there's so much hype. But it is a serious thing for people like me, as I've explained, because I've got a lung issue, and I would be one of those people that would need a ventilator. And since we don't have a zillion of them here, it's better if I don't catch it. So I'm being very, very cautious. What software am I using? It's OBS Studio. It's, as they say, it's open share. So I'll show you a couple clips here. This was the last time I was out. I went to the ATM, and the actual curfew was not in effect, but people were voluntarily clearing the streets. And you'll see that there's not a lot of people here, and you'll see some people wearing masks. Now I'm going to talk during this. Let me know if you can hear me while this clip is playing. I have a concern about that because frankly I don't know. It should be. But see the mask? See how he's wearing that mask? Okay, could you hear me during that clip? I was talking during that clip. Please let me know. Again, I need your help with this so I can get it dialed in. But what I wanted to point out in that clip is, even though there were still people, oh good, okay, there were people out and around, there were some wearing masks, and it was person after person after person you saw with a mask, with the nose open, and a lot of them lower the volume of the clip. I don't think there was any sound on that clip. That was just me. Okay, they're having the mask here or actually down on their chin so they can talk. It's pretty hilarious. And the masks that are here that like I had to like you have to get to go into the store, they're the surgical material that like a doctor would use in an operating room. But that doesn't stop the virus from getting to you. You know, it's only a certain type, that charcoal type. I forget the name of it. But everybody's using the mask thinking that it's protection, and it's not. But I don't know. Something's better than nothing, I guess. I don't know. Also, I've got some slides here. This was right outside my building. Now, I've done a number of clips and pictures and right outside my building because it's actually a very busy intersection. And let's take a look here. Oh, this was at the Portal Condillo, the line to go into the Olympica. And I'm not sure what this is. Forget that. Someone took these for me. Okay, here, this is the intersection right at my building, and empty. And this is the way it is pretty much every day. Normally you'd see cars bumper to bumper, buses. Yeah, it's kind of a ghost town. Now, the good news is probably half of the people are working and they're being very cautious. So they don't have you locked in to the point where you can get up and go to the grocery store. You can go buy some medicine. They just don't want you just going out and around for nothing. Now, of course, if you're going to the grocery store, there's people working there. If you go to the pharmacy, there's people working there. Home delivery for food, most places are still open to do that. but they've got all kinds of procedures that they're going through. You know, here in my building, they don't even let the guy in the building. You have to receive it at the door, but he's all done up and he's got gloves on, and so you receive it at the door, and you know, you bring it there. I've noticed I've done 2 home deliveries. Almost everything else has been home cooking, which I think why I'm getting fat. I'm a pretty good cook. And anyway, yeah. So the packaging is different on a lot of them, I've noticed. So I don't know what's going on in the store. I haven't gotten sick from those couple, but everything has been adjusted. And you hear motorcycles go by once in a while, which are the home deliveries. So everything is not completely shut down. Are they starting to do mass testing there? No. And I'll talk about that. The countries that have been most successful so far did that as early as possible. Well, I did some reading on the testing issue. I did a lot, because I got called out on something that I said earlier, which turned out to be true. They said in the US there was no testing in the beginning, and I said yes, there was testing, but that testing was the type of testing that you would do in the hospital, and the sample is sent to the CDC and their lab would test it. So it's not a mass testing, and at the volume of what it was when it began, that was adequate, but it quickly became inadequate. And then they had tests that were supposed to go out in a certain period of time, but it failed to test, and so there was a delay in it. The problem is, around the world, nobody knew this was coming, nobody was prepared for it, and the test has to be specific to this virus. Well, if this virus isn't known, you can't really have tests on the shelf waiting for it. Now, here's what I found out. Throughout the world, most of the test kits that have been used are defective. They're faulty. Here in Colombia, there's a big article with the Bogota Chronicle, I think it's called, Bogota Journal. Big Bogota newspaper. There was a pretty good article on testing in there. And it was talking about, there's a whole series of issues here in Colombia with the testing, that they're not adequately trained to take the tests are being done wrong. You actually have to jab this thing up to your brain practically, and because people getting the test, they're moving and jumping around. The people giving the test, they don't want to hurt somebody, and so they're not going far enough. They're not cataloging them properly. There's all kinds of issues. Now, let me get to it right now. Here in Colombia, the cases are on the rise. It says 491 with 6 people dead. Total tested is 9,000. Of those tests, how many are accurate? It's really not known. There are not adequate tests here to get good numbers. How's that slide? Did that work out? Okay, so testing is definitely an issue. And there's some places like my friend in Manizales, he says that there's only 2 cases reported in Manizales right now, and it seems like overkill to have the city shut down. And it seems like from what he's saying, it's a much stricter lockdown than it is here in Armenia. Here it's almost voluntary. I mean, they've got some rules and you don't want to go out and break it and things like that. But in Manizales, from what he describes, it's stricter, more problematic to go to the grocery store. And I don't know, I'm not there, so you have to take people's word for it, and it's unfortunate if that's the case. But cases in some areas like Cali, like Bogota, they're exploding. And if that lockdown is resulting in only 2 cases, that's not really a bad thing. That's probably a good thing. And we look at this and say, well, the numbers, they're not that high. I mean, it's only 491. Well, that's with this testing issue. You've got 50 million people in Colombia. How many people actually have it? Probably tens of thousands. Seriously. Also, they say 6 dead, but there could very well, it's likely that there's deaths not attributed to the virus, thinking it was pneumonia in and of itself, or cases like that. So these numbers, and I've said this before, these numbers have no meaning right now. They don't have any meaning here. But in the US, as they keep upping those tests, you see the numbers are skyrocketing. It has a lot to do with the fact that, they're discovering with tests, as to the comment earlier. So, the tests will ultimately tell the story, but you're not really going to know what any of these numbers are until it's pretty much over. Then you're going to know. Of course, the more you test, the more cases are revealed. That's exactly right. That's what's going on. There's definitely testing issues here. Here in Colombia, they're trying to get kits. They're trying to import some kits because the ones that they had were inferior. Now, I don't want to pile on, this is not anti-Chinese by any means, but most of the kits provided around the world are provided along with a lot of medicine that comes from, all of this stuff is coming out of China. And these kits are just not working. One thing I will say for the United States is, while they had some fits and starts to get it out there, by all information I could find, including people in Europe talking about these kits in the United States, the kits in the United States are very reliable. And now they've got some new one that you'll know in hours. And so they're trying to get that one out there. And it's interesting to see how private industry is stepping up. I just saw this morning about this ventilator that they've created that does the basic function of ventilation. And it has a ticket of $350. There's Rice University kind of invented this mechanism, and all it is that big bag that you would doing it by hand. Well, they created a mechanism that will do it at the same pace as if you did it by hand, and you don't have to do it by hand. So that means that they can save the $50,000 ventilators for cases that are severe, and people that have not reached that point can use this ventilator so they don't get to that point. $350. I mean, it's pretty amazing with private industry. They're going to be the savior out of this. A lot of people want to hate business, but their governments can't do squat. They're not experts in anything. So there's a lot of good news. And here in Colombia, the tests are an issue. On the other hand, is chat getting through? Yes. I'm saying everything. All you have to do, if your chat doesn't seem to be working, is just refresh it, and it'll work. Just restart it, refresh it. You can pop the chat out. Anyway. What else do we have here? Yeah, I covered all those things. Just an update. Some of you could care less. Some of you feel like it's an advertisement. I guess it kind of is. But there's a lot of you that requested for a long time the merchandise thing. And, I've been working on that, trying to put it together. And there's been some issues like the factories. There's a factory in Pennsylvania and there's one in Nevada. And first I got an email saying the one in Pennsylvania was shut down. And then that afternoon I got an email saying the one in Nevada was shut down. And then a couple days later, maybe, they said that both of them have been released or shut down by the federal government. What the federal government did apparently was they put an order out under this emergency act, basically shutting everything down, producing non-essential items. And they quickly went through, based on how long they were shut down versus when they were able to open back up. They went through and figured out what could operate and wouldn't affect in a negative way what was going on. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think they actually had this company making some hospital gowns, but I can't be positive of that. But anyway, after a couple days, they were able to open up. But there are a number of things that are no longer in stock. They're not, because everything was shut down. So now there's going to be a delay to get in, like the backpacks. It may be, God knows, days before they're restocked. But things are working again. And some of your viewers have bought some coffee cups, t-shirts off of there. I have coming, I'll show you what I have coming. Well, I don't have this one coming, but I don't have enough money to buy what I'd like to get. But this hat, I have this hat coming. It's on back order, so they're going to send it out when I can. I've got the Art Deco logo on it. I've got this t-shirt. This is actually on its way now. So I have this t-shirt, so hopefully I'll have that within a couple weeks. And I have this coffee cup with the other type of logo coming. That's been shipped. All of these things probably take a couple weeks, but who knows with what's going on. I'm sure it affects, shipping, as along with everything else. Well, one thing I want to mention in the stores, I requested that when she goes, she takes some videos for me, and she didn't because she didn't think there was anything of interest. But she did tell me that there's some things that they're out of. I ordered a super cool t-shirt this week. Store is well worth a look-see. The variety of the stuff available is pleasantly surprising. Yeah, the variety is awesome. I'm real happy so far with this company. And I've gotten message from a couple people that got things, and they said, well, the coffee cup, they said it was good size, and it was packed in an amazing way. I can't wait to get mine to see. But they were talking about the packaging, how awesome the packaging was, and why it would never arrive broken. So that's very interesting. I was worried about that. T-shirts, you can get moisture wicking. You can get standard 100% cotton. You can get there's 5 or 6 types of T-shirts you can get. Tons of color choices and sizes up to 5XL in a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of things. And they do ship to Colombia and Ecuador, so that's pretty cool. And the shipping, somebody said, well, the shipping would be, kind of outrageous to Colombia. Well, if you're poor like me, everything's outrageous. But the typical shipping and handling they charge is around $4, I think. So if you buy something, it would have a $4 shipping and handling charge. But it's included in the price. The price you see, it's included in that. So when I ordered mine, what it did was it subtracted off that $4, maybe it was $4.95 price. It subtracted that off and then added $9.99. So to Colombia, the shipping and handling is $9.99 total. That's if it's 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things, 4 things. I don't know at what point there's a break, but so that's basically how that's working. So anyway, I'm looking forward to have the stuff, and then, sometime in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to show the stuff off, and it's kind of cool and not terribly expensive. All right, so did I go through all there's my COVID, the Sandy clips? Yep. So that's all my clips. I hope you appreciate what this will be able to do. I'm sorry about the echo. I'm looking forward to some detailed feedback. I know some of you, when I do things like this, you send me an email and you just kind of go down through, as for this, and I'm really looking forward to that so I can kind of get this fine-tuned. I love this chat. I love being able to actually sit back and read this thing, and I can't tell you how bad it is trying to read it through the YouTube method. Okay, any questions in general that you have? I still prefer for question mark so that I know that it's a question. I get to those first. But anything, anyone, Bueller? Okay, if moving to Colombia permanently, would you recommend converting your savings from US dollars to Colombian pesos, given the strong exchange rate, or keep it in the US and convert as needed? It's tempting with this exchange rate, I have to admit. But in order to do larger amounts, you're going to have to have a bank account, bank fees. It can be problematic. Plus, you don't really want to show a huge amount of money coming in, because then you can get into a taxable situation. There could be complications with it. Personally, what I would probably do is come down, leave your money in a U.S. account. Come down here, have your ATM card. But then what I would do is I would go to World Remit, because the fees are only like $4 to $2 to $4, and I would have them send me the maximum, which I think is like $5,000, maybe $4,000. I'm not sure of these numbers. I haven't used it in a couple years. But I would have them send me that, and the way you receive it is you just walk up to the bank with your ID and they give you the cash. That's it. And I would have a couple of those sent. That would give you the money to get set up and furniture. That's more. The one would be more than enough, but you could do that maybe a couple times, and then the rest of it you just kind of run with it, because you never know how it's going to go. So the security of being in a U.S. bank would be more important to me than having the bulk of it, converted. If that makes any sense to you, if I said that the way I meant to say it. So in other words, I would capitalize on some of it, but I would not, depending on the amount you're talking about. But if you're talking about you sold a house and you got $50,000 in equity, for example, I would not bring $50,000 here, put it into a bank just to convert it for those pesos. It's some serious money, but I would just do a portion of it. The security would be more important to me. It's a great question. Colombia is spelled Colombia, not Columbia. Hence that T-shirt that I showed. Everybody wants to misspell it, but you spell it right there, and then you hit it halfway through, so you just typoed it. Any other questions? I got it right once, exactly. Yeah. So it's a great question, and I don't know. It's like it would be tempting. It would be tempting if you could do it without having bank information too involved. It might be tempting, but then do you really want to sit around with a pile of cash? I don't know. Okay, the difference between Ecuador and Colombia's healthcare system is glaring now in the number of cases and successes for Colombia. With COVID-19, you're better off there. Yeah, well, there's all kinds of issues going on in Ecuador, and these are the things that I tried to express. It's like I don't want to run Ecuador down, because there's a lot of good things about it, but there are, like everywhere, there's some drawbacks. There's some negative things, and I've tried to express without being blatantly rude or nasty, because I don't feel that way. But there's issues with the style of government that they have there, the lack of stability over a long period of time. I mean, they're working on this government for about 20 years, They've got a history of hundreds of years of just constant turmoil and military coups and all kinds of issues. So there's a governmental stability issue, and there's a lot of politics that there's no protection from, and there's a lot of politicking going on in Ecuador. It's almost like some of the stuff in the United States. And I think that had a lot to do with this thing getting out of hand, and it is kind of out of hand in Ecuador. I have a friend in Guayaquil, which is like they're the hardest hit in Ecuador, and she says it's just absolutely terrible, and she wishes she was back in Cuenca. So the extent of the problem of this epidemic really does seem to be around how a government handles it and how the people accept it. And what I'll say, in Ecuador, you had so many people that were just basically blowing off because if you don't have any faith or trust in your government, when something like this comes along, you're not so prone to listen. And I got lots of videos sent to me about people out partying in the streets, and this wasn't in the beginning. This was like just a few days ago. So it's problematic there. Where here, people seem to get it, and what the government hasn't been this draconian crackdown because people are just kind of doing their thing, and it's not fun if you're, at some point you've got to get back to work. I mean, right now you're sitting there and you're trying to, buy food every day, and don't have a paycheck coming in. The upside is the utilities can't shut you off for non-payment. There's a lot of things that are people are protected from that normally wouldn't be, and so that's nice. And people are fairly forgiving if you have a landlord and you can't get to the bank or something. Everybody is being very good about that. And people are mostly staying home and they're paying attention to this. And consequently, you don't see a massive spread. Now, if they're not testing, how do I know that? Well, I don't know that for a fact. What I do know is that the hospitals don't have lines going out the door. Everything is relatively quiet. I don't know anybody who's sick, and I know a lot of people. So, and it's all anecdotal, doesn't necessarily mean much. And Quindío is certainly not one of the hard-hit places. Now, I understand in Pereira, it's getting bigger there. It's getting a little bit more epidemic there, and that's not far from here. So I don't know. We'll see as we go. But you mentioned that, and I've noticed that because I have friends there. They're telling me, and the differences from what I'm seeing here to what they're seeing there are pretty dramatic. Are you leaving apartment at all? I mentioned this earlier, but no, I haven't left the apartment. I'm on the 14th day. I have not left this apartment to go anywhere. I haven't even gone out the apartment door. The more I read about this, the more concerned I got for myself, because it seems like this virus was created for a person specifically with my problem. And before the year, before I came here, that last year in Cuenca, having pneumonia 3 times, it's still fresh in my mind. I just don't want to go through it. It would probably kill me. So I'm trying to avoid it. There's other things that are destined to kill me, and this one isn't one of them. What do we got here? I would think that places with higher tourism would have higher cases of COVID. What's interesting here in Colombia is, of the cases that they knew of, the majority, well, originally it was all, and for a long time it was a majority up until 27th. What's today? 28th or 29th? As of the 27th, the majority were foreign cases brought in. It was the 27th when the number of local cases have just passed the number of cases that were brought in. And again, with the testing, it's hard to say, but of the ones that were tested, that's how it's done. There's a procedure how this takes place, and it's put out by the CDC. And what you first have to do is you have to track it down. So if somebody comes in, and that first case here in Colombia was that 19-year-old girl that came from Spain, and so they put people on the case, detectives. Who did she have contact with? Who was on the airplane? Who did she see at the baggage claim? What taxi did she take home? They track all this down, and then they start testing those people, and that's where this testing came in. And when it opened up testing to the rest of the country, that's when they found out there's faulty kits, there's a lack of people understanding how to actually do it. Very problematic. There was a list of about 8 things in the newspaper that I read. I'm not going to hit you with them, all of them, but it's been very problematic. But that's how the system works: is they have to try to identify the people, and then they test them, and then they try to cure them. It's good that you have affordable taxi system there because it's so much safer than taking buses. I don't see buses anymore. I don't think the buses are running. You do see taxis. In the taxis, the drivers are wearing their mask and they're washing, they've got their hand cleaner stuff, the alcohol stuff, and from what I understand, they're like Lysol the seats after every person. Every taxi driver is that way. I don't know, but probably they're pretty conscientious. But I've yet to see a bus, and there's regular buses. There's a major line that runs by my building, and I can see the road. And all I see is an occasional motorcycle, an occasional car. Like every 5-10 minutes, something will go by, and most likely they're deliveries for something. Read a couple days ago that about a quarter of the buses were running. It's possible, but I don't know. Again, I'm trapped in my apartment. I'm seeing the world from here, and I can see a road there. I've got this major road here. There's one over here. I haven't seen a bus in almost 2 weeks. So now that could be buses. Do you mean in Armenia, or do you mean like in the country? Because different places will have different ways of doing things. But I honestly think these buses are probably shut down, or you'd think I would have seen it. Any other questions? In Armenia? Okay, well, you could be right. I don't know. Maybe it's only up 14. I don't know what the purpose of that would be, but I don't know. It's a good point, and I probably should find out. But I'm in adversity now. I do contact people that I know, and I talk to them. But most everybody's kind of in a situation of me. I'm home. I don't really know what's going on out there. Would you recommend becoming a Colombian citizen? Is dual citizenship available? Yes, it's available. I will be eligible for that in 3 years. I will probably do it. Why not? But it doesn't take away your U.S. citizenship. And there's some advantages. Well, first of all, you will never have to get another visa. You don't have to keep renewing resident visas every 3 years. So the way it works is you're on 3 years. So I've got 1 more year on my resident visa, and then you have to renew it. And so that almost $500 I'll have to pay again for the next 3 years. But after 2 years of that 3 years, I can then apply for the citizenship. And so I've got a year on that visa in order to get the citizenship thing done. So it shouldn't be very problematic. And then I never have to do it again. And that's the path I'm planning, particularly since you don't have to give anything up. Do you have a way to pay for deliveries cashless? Yeah, I don't. But like I said, I've only had a couple home deliveries. But I always keep enough cash to take care of basic, food and things like that, on the shelf rather than in the ATM. So I pull it out, I put it on the shelf, and so I've got it for a period of time. And that's the way I recommend doing it. But a lot of them you can set up to pay with your card, and they just come and you take the food and you can do it that way. I'm still gun shy. I had such horrible experience in Ecuador with people misusing my card information. It's rampant there. It's a real problem, and it took me forever to get it cleared up. I don't think that would be the case here, but I'm still gun shy. It's like there's a reason they make cash, and so I do everything I can with that. We need to get you a little drone so you can explore the city from your balcony. A drone would be awesome right now. It would be awesome, but I have much bigger priorities. I had one back in Ecuador, but when things started going south, I had to sell it, which kind of sucked. It was a Phantom 4 DJI. I loved it, and I just started to get rolling with the thing, and that's when things started to go south, and I said, well, I really kind of need this money. So, so I've had one. Now they've got this DJI, this little tiny one that you can actually fit in your pocket, and it's like half the price. That Phantom cost me $1,400. They're much cheaper, but I don't have that kind of money anymore. I mean, $10 is a lot to me. It's a nice dream, but I have other things that are more priority. My number one priority right now is to get this car. I'm taking advantage of this exchange rate right now, and I'm actually able to save money, and I'm putting money aside so that hopefully within the next 2 months I can buy this cheap car, a couple $1,000s, and with that car I'll be able to take my equipment and actually drive to places to do videos. And yes, you can do it with a bus, but it's very problematic that you have to keep hauling, from bus to bus to taxi. Where do I've got a place where I can store and lock things. And so I would not recommend to people to get a car in general because it's unnecessary. But if you're doing this, it will solve a ton of problems for me, which will mean it'll be much easier for me to get out and do these videos. And I really want to do that. I've committed to it. FYI, Lauren, it seems like there is about a minute or two delay between posting a comment on YouTube and appearing on the window of your new program. Yeah, that's probably the case. That's the case within YouTube, as a matter of fact. If you post a comment, it didn't show up on my YouTube chat up for the live there software for a period of time. And I learned that because I would open up the page that you're looking on. The chat you can pop out. So I would pop the chat out and I would set it to the side. And then I would move my browser over a little bit so I could see that. And then on the YouTube software, the chat was there. Now, I thought maybe I could see it better. And I would see that it would post up on the pop-out chat much quicker than when it would show up in the actual YouTube software. So that's not an issue of this. That's just a function of YouTube. So, yeah, that delay is just going to be there. There's nothing I can do about that. I have looked into that, and if that's the way it's working out of YouTube, and we're broadcasting on YouTube, it won't be any better if you have software. As a matter of fact, I have that chat open. Let me look at it and see what's there. Same thing. Whoops. Yeah, YouTube does look at these things, and anything they consider as spam, like a link, it may or may not show up. They just, it didn't used to be like that. They've just gotten so bad. It's censorship gone amok, and if it's a private company, you can get away with that, I guess, but it really kind of sucks. So anyway, there's that. Do we have any more questions? Are we done for the day? What do you think? Outside of the sound delay, I'm not really hearing about anything else. So feel free to send me off an email. It was a fix for the Echo and OBS. I'll PM you the link. Okay, awesome. Appreciate that. There's an adjustment of the time delay, and I had, I think it was a YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to use the OBS, and it had you put a negative 10.27 or something like that in a setting, and that's taken the echo down to almost nothing. There is a little, I could hear it in these, which until I went live, it didn't show up. So I couldn't predetermine this. I'll probably have to this week play with those settings and just go live a couple times. And if any of you see that I go live, it's not like I'm doing anything except making adjustments. Feel free to jump in. Have you got your international driver's license? No, because that doesn't do you any good. In international, this is a big misunderstanding. I've told people and they argue with me. I've had an international driver's license when I was doing a lot of traveling. And you quickly learn that an international driver's license is not a driver's license. It's basically worthless. Some people would take it out of courtesy, but you're required to have a valid driver's license from wherever you're coming from. So if I'm here, I could have an international driver's license, but it doesn't permit me to drive. I have to have a valid driver's license. So I have a valid New York driver's license. But it still falls within the law of it's only good for, I think, 6 months in Colombia. I think it was 3 months in Ecuador. And in Colombia, I think it's 6 months you can use it, but then you can no longer use it. And so the international driver, what's the point of having it? There is no point. And people want to argue with me, but I've had it. I've been through it, and I was traveling a lot with it and found it was pointless. So, you get one if you want, but it's not going to do you any good. Video quality of, I just lost that. Video quality, you seem noticeably lower than usual, a bit hazy, color slightly off, not complaining, just feedback. All right, well, I'll look at the playback and see. All streamers are cut back. Netflix, YouTube quality is suffering. Yeah, that's true. Personally don't see a lower video quality in my broadcast, but sometimes you ask, are there any more questions? And actually there are 2 posts you can't see. I'm getting them pretty quick compared to the pop out from the YouTube. So you may be putting it in, but the delay, other people are seeing that same delay without this software program. I can see, okay, so I opened up YouTube link in the browser, just like you would do to watch it. And then I popped the chat out, and I've got the chat there. And what I'm seeing is when you're posting something there, it's pretty much appearing quickly in this OBS. So the delay is every other people are seeing that delay also. I'm not really seeing hardly any delay from the pop out to what's showing up here. All right, so there was something I wanted to mention. What the heck was it? I tell you, this Alzheimer's is really taking hold. Okay, yeah, I try to, after I do last call for questions, I try to hold on for a minute. Oh, the video quality. You have, somebody mentioned here, the streamers, Mike maybe. The amount of streamers is having an effect. So the quality, I'm putting this out at 1900 by 1080. So this is going out at high definition because that's the highest that YouTube can do. Well, yes, they have 4K, but there's problematic. So the highest I can do with YouTube without any kind of issues is 1080p. And that's what this is. And so that's what you're seeing. However, you may be seeing it at a lower, more degraded quality. And that comes from one of two things. One is the settings, which are, if you look at your YouTube settings for the video, it's a little gear, and you click on it, it will automatically move to the best one for what the stream is. And so that could have degraded you. And it could have degraded you because the quality of the streams lately, there's much more demand on it. I've been noticing that. I'm seeing buffering in some things, some places that you would never see before. YouTube crashed a couple days ago. They were down for about 15 minutes. And you can imagine you probably have twice the people on the internet worldwide than were on it before because they're home with nothing to do. And, people like me, anything I watch on TV, everything's streamed. I don't have cable, I don't have antennas. It's all of this. And so the quality you're seeing is probably more related to the internet usage of your locality, which is why you'll see it in bad quality and someone else will see it in good quality. Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, and a lot of people aren't aware of that setting, and it can change. So you can, right now you put it at 1080. You may find next week that you have to go back and check it again. So if you see your video degraded, check that thing. It should stay where you select it, but I'm telling you it doesn't. It doesn't. And you thought it was a lower quality because you're used to better quality, which means you probably weren't at 480 before. So watching your clips in 4K that you inserted were pretty good. I am watching on a 4K TV, so not that noticeable. Yeah, that's one of the things. Going through YouTube, if I actually did 4K and you watch it on a 4K TV, or I do the 1080, there's not that much difference. They say it's a true 4K, but the feedback I get from people is that's not actually what shows up. But the time to upload the logistics of it is much more complicated with the 4K. From the time I'm taking the video to the time it's done. So I just stay with the 1080 with the HD. Looks fine, but it saves a lot of problems that way. Mine is 1080p setting, but looks like 480. Well, that's going to be, obviously other people are seeing it clear, so that's just going to be your local source, and it's not surprising right now. What I'm seeing, the video that I see is the broadcast quality that's going to YouTube. So I'm seeing the broadcast. It's live for me. And outside of, being ugly, it's very clear, to me. So it's going out is 1080 in good shape. I think I got that pretty much figured out. But no, if I ever do Facebook streaming, the best you can do there is 720. They're actually limited. They won't allow you to do 1080 or higher. So if I ever do it there, it's going to be 720, which is pretty good. That's what, SD, which is still pretty good. Okay, any more questions? I appreciate the comments, and I know some of you are going to write me some detail, and I'm looking forward to that. I appreciate that. I will try to have a couple good topics, actual topics for next week, because I don't have a whole lot I need to do on this like I was doing this last week. I just got obsessed with it in every waking moment I was working on this. I just didn't even have time to think about topics. I was working on this still even this morning. So I'm over the hump. I've just got a few things to hammer out, probably 20 hours, and I'll have it taken care of. So I'm going to have time to look for topics. If you have any suggestions, feel free to send them to me. Maybe the $1,200 from the IRS can help with a car. I can hope, but I have serious doubts of whether I'll actually see that. I may eventually, and I spent a little time yesterday kind of track this down. I've been curious about it for a while, but yesterday probably half an hour, and supposedly I would receive it. But if you haven't filed with the IRS with direct deposit, which I never have, then they don't have any way to do it except send a check. And if they send a check, it's going to go to my half-brother's address. He's a truck driver. He's like home once a month. And so there'll be that delay. And then I don't know yet. He can't cash it for me. I use Capital One. There aren't any branches anywhere around him, although he's a truck driver, so at some point maybe he can. If he sends me the check, I don't know how problematic it would be here to cash it. Probably doable, but then there'll be delay of the sending it. So it probably, by the time I ever see it, it's going to be 2 or 3 months, in which case I'll have already, hopefully, have saved enough to buy a car. But you're absolutely right, and in order to save for this car, this is helping a lot, but I was already dialed back to where I was just saving every possible penny I could, not spending anything, because it's the only way I can put anything together. They'll send you a check in that case. You can claim it as a credit on your 2020 tax return. I don't do tax returns. I haven't for the last few years because my only real income is I get a little from this, but when I add that into my Social Security, I don't meet the threshold to have to file taxes. Therefore, I haven't filed any taxes, because if you don't meet the threshold, you can't file electronically. You have to do it with mailing. Again, it becomes problematic, and since I don't have to, I haven't bothered. So, so there's that. Yeah, it wouldn't be much different if I were back there. Now, there was something in an article saying if you're receiving Social Security checks, that you may have it come through the Social Security system. That would be awesome. But I don't know. Everything else I've read said it's strictly through the IRS. And I don't know how connected they are. So I don't know. So I'm not counting on it. I'm proceeding ahead with the plans that I have, trying to put together this car. But I appreciate the interest in it. All right, we're going to wrap this up for today. Looking forward to the emails. There was a contribution. Thank you. I appreciate that. And to everybody out there, I really appreciate you, especially hanging in there with me. but you might be eligible for a credit in 2020 if you don't cash that check. No, it won't come via Social Security. Maybe, you're probably right. I did read from a credible source. I think that source was actually Social Security, but I don't remember now. It's all kind of a blur. All right, it's all hypothetical at this point anyway. That's it for today. How do I turn you off? Can I turn you off? All right, let's give this a try.